Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Well, today I'm looking at the Crux cigar line, and we're going to look at their Limitadas. This is a rare select group that uses a special tobacco called Enganosa, and it's very limited, and they only use it in the Limitada series. So let's look at one called Redline. This is the Crux Limitada Redline. Now this cigar, let's see, uses the rare Nicaraguan Enganosa wrapper, a Connecticut broadleaf binder, and the filler is from the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. This comes in one size only, 6x50. It is Cuban box pressed, and there is the density. Has a average to light feel in the hand, so we'll see how that translates into burn time. But these are slated to be an annual release, but not that many. I read a total production of 1,000 allocated for 2019. It's not a lot of cigars, so limitada is the key phrase here. So let's get right to it. The new Crux Limitada Redline. All right, this is a nice looking cigar. It's well made. Of course, if you're familiar with Crux cigars, that's the standard label. But this is Limitada and Redline. Also, you'll recognize the cross on the Crux line. Let's see what we got here. Now, I've had couple of these already, and without giving anything away, I want to see if this one holds up, does the same thing as the others. I'll talk about it later. Very odd flavors for Crux. I've had reviewed several Crux cigars, but I'm going to report what this tastes like. Sit down. Dry cedar with blackberry notes, brown sugar, quite a bit of an earthy black coffee, slight butteriness to the sweeter flavors. A little nutmeg thrown in there, which could be a creamy nutmeg, giving it a faux buttery. It's not full blown butter, but it's that smoothness. A little cinnamon, black pepper at a 7. So that's sort of how we're starting. The odd flavor was the blackberry, and it's very distinct. It's not a cedar, it's not a citrus, it's that dark blackberry type flavor. If you combine that with dry cedar in your mind, it's kind of what you have. This is the early stages. I think things have to shake out, so I don't want to see where it goes from here, but that's how you start. Well, we're here at the first third, and this Crux cigar is sort of following the pattern of the other ones I've had. It's not overly sweet. As a matter of fact, it's not as sweet now as when we started. That blackberry flavor and the cedar is still sort of there. There's now elevated nutmeg, which sort of waters it down, and it's hard to tell. But there's that dark flavor. It's not chocolate, but it is that blackberry. But it's actually lost sweetness. It's medium. It's leaning toward medium to full body now. It's let's call it medium body. But if it plays out the way it has in the past, I've had these. We're going to ramp up to full body, which to me is why it's called Redline, because for a Crux cigar to hit full bodied is mind blowing. But the sweetness is not there now, and there's just a hodgepodge of cedar, some of that light blackberry, lots of nutmeg, a little brown sugar, and a little cinnamon, but it's just not a lot. And of course, you got black coffee base. So as it's transitioned for the first third, I'm rating it 87. And I'm hoping, and we'll see, we can still recover from this. But right now, it's just, for a Limitada cigar, it's sort of dark with not much sweetness, and it's ramping up in strength. But maybe that's the whole idea. We'll see. Okay, we're here at the midpoint, and this is rare to come back at a midpoint, but in this cigar's case, I am, because it's just changing, and it's a little different than most cigars you would probably have. Biggest thing you'll notice here at the midpoint is the strength. It is a sneaky Ligero. It ramps up from the first third to the midpoint. You're very close to full body. As I said before, you were sort of leaning toward medium to full anyway. It's sort of a very sneaky full bodied at this point. The flavors have just a wee bit more sweetness, but it's more enjoyable now. I can't explain why, because the nutmeg is creamy. The cedar and blackberry notes, I'm gonna stick with that, have just a wee bit more sweetness to it. The biggest change is the overall feel of the Ligero and the power of the cigar. It doesn't really taste full bodied, but you will feel the Ligero. For me, the cigar improved, so I'm coming back now because it's an 89. I'm rating 89 at the midpoint, and if it were to hold this trajectory, we would get to a nice score. But I'm at the midpoint. I will come back at the second, third point too, which won't be much longer, but I'm trying to give you enough dots that you can follow me. Okay, here we are at the end of the second third, and we didn't take long to get there. But the cigar is slightly improving. We've got a little more sweetness. Cedar, sort of a bitter blackberry because you've got a lot of nutmeg attached to it. Some brown sugar, but nothing to write home about. Maybe a sprinkling of cinnamon. Quite a bit of nutmeg, though. Quite a bit of nutmeg. Actually, Crux cigars have a history of a lot of nutmeg. And a little subtle black coffee base. I haven't talked about the finish yet because it hasn't been anything that stood out. It's actually nutmeg, some of that blackberry flavor, and it's a little sweetness in that blackberry. Maybe a sprinkling or a dab of brown sugar. And a little decent lingering black pepper because it's actually quite noticeable in the finish. Still that sneaky full-bodied. You know the sneaky full-bodied you get in an Oliva V? You don't really taste a lot of power, but you just feel it. It's like that. The cigar has just quietly gotten better. At this point, second, third, I would nail it at a 90. Now, it's unusual for a cigar to improve as it goes, but the final third will tell the story. I mean, we're at a decent a mark now, but I can't tell you what it's going to do in the final third yet. But it's coming up. Well, we're down to the end, so let's wrap it up. You know, here in the final third, those blackberry notes just disappeared. There is that cedar with some sweetness and just a slight amount of cinnamon. Still have lots of nutmeg. It is still full bodied. It's not going to go away. It's that sneaky hero. Be aware of that. Not a long burn time for a Toro. Hour and 30 minutes. It felt light in the hand, if you recall. The finish is more cedary, a little coffee, nutmeg, some brown sugar. The final third, with the believe it or not, with the loss of those blackberry notes, it sort of dipped back. So I'm rating the final third at 89. This cigar had pluses and minuses for me, but it didn't really hit on all cylinders. I think you'll agree from my review. So the overall score, what I come up with, 88.75. And actually, I'm okay with that because it just, as I said, didn't hit on all cylinders. Overall, 88.75. Not bad, but it's not for $12. And these are $12 a piece, so it didn't overly impress me. But try it for yourself. So there you have it. The new Crux Limitada Redline. 88.75.